Here's the website right now that is hosted privately. It's not open to public yet. And it basically has the data that Melanie talked about that has been harmonized and loaded into the Atlas browser. So there are altogether 66 cohorts. Because the harmonization effort is still ongoing, this is actually a mix of real data and mock-up data. So don't get too bogged down about data correctness here, since some of them was mocked up, but do focus on the functionalities and the usability, because we would really like to hear from you what questions you would like to come to this browser and ask so that we make sure that those use cases are satisfied. So to start off in this table with the 66 cohorts, this is listed with cohort names, countries, and enrollment data, etc. For each of these columns, they are can be sorted. So right now, by default, it's sorted by column name alphabetically, but I can also sort by countries, first in ascending order. Sorry, this is ascending order or descending order. I can also sort by enrollment, meaning the number of participants that have enrolled in this data, in each cohort, because in case you may want to start with the largest cohort possible, that's always, that can be, you can see that right away. And then you can also see the type of data that is available from each of these cohorts. That includes genomic data, environmental, biospecimen, clinical, and whether there's a data sharing potential. The PIs are listed as well. And then there is a link to each of the cohort to the external site. Now on the graph up there, we can do a number of things, but based on the data so far, we think it's interesting to show the cohorts by country. So you can see that in USA, there are 15 cohorts participating in IHCC, and then down to 5 in Sweden, and then all the way down to 2 cohorts in multiple countries. And as you can imagine, there is actually a fairly long tail. There are countries with only 1 cohort participating. And so for those countries, we have actually grouped them into other, so we don't have this long tail that makes it hard to look at. And then the second graph we have is about biosample type. So this is what we call the Sankey graph that kind of show you, these are the 4 biospecimen types: saliva, blood, urine, and stool. And you can easily see which cohorts collect saliva sample or which cohorts collect blood samples. Or on the other side, you can come and look at, well, what this cohort live gene collects, which is urine and stool. And then this Million Women study collects the 3 different sample types. So that's kind of the orientation. And then here on the left, as I said, there are facet search here for you to pick, and I've collapsed them initially just so that you see the 14 categories in the data dictionary. Now, this is completely driven by data itself. So as the ontology changes, the hierarchy changes, we can definitely update these categories to match. So to walk you through some of these searches, I'm actually going to start from the bottom, going all the way to the top. So at the bottom, looking at socio-demographic information, by default, each category will only show 3 top data attributes. Top meaning that the largest number of cohorts having that data attribute is sort of listed up at the top. But you can always expand that, and you can see all the other data attributes in this category. Now, I'm going to also show you the physiological measurements and the lifestyle behaviors. So you notice that I haven't selected anything yet, and it will show you, hey, there are actually 10 in cohort showing with sleep data or 10 with tobacco data. So the use case that Melanie mentioned earlier is, as a researcher, I'm looking for cohorts with blood pressure measurements. So here I am clicking this blood pressure, and you see that the table has been updated with the 9 cohorts carrying this data. The graph has also been updated. This is spreading now across 7 countries, and then this same key graph has also been updated. Now, if you say, oh, okay, I have blood pressure measurement, that's great, but I also want cohorts that also have tobacco data. So this is where you can come back and now check that box. And now you find 3 particular cohorts that have both tobacco and blood pressure. So at the top, you can clearly see what filters you have selected. And so at this point, if you say you're interested in this Goldston cohort study, you can click this website link to go to the external study with more information in here. So going back to here, we can easily remove one attribute at a time. So I say I'm no longer interested in blood pressure. I just want studies with tobacco information, tobacco data. So that's now the 10 cohorts in here. Or more easily, you can actually clear everything by clicking that button. So there are other categories that I'm not going to show every one of them, but there's the PI category. There's some microbiology so that you can see where the microbiome data is available. And then you can also look at current enrollment. So this kind of right now implemented as a slide bar. And so say, for example, if you want cohorts with at least 1 million participants, then you can slide up here to get to 5 cohorts. So initial implementation was a slide bar, but now that as we try it out, I think we actually need to have like 2 input boxes for a min and max so that you can enter the exact number that you want. So clearing this, we can also look at sample types. So as I've shown you before, there was 4 biospecimen types being collected by these cohorts. You can look at any one of them. There's also basic cohort attributes. I'm not going to click on these, but the next 4 categories is actually about the availability of data from these cohorts. So you want to know if the data cohort has phenotypic clinical data or genomic data, environment data, or biospecimen data. So these basically are shown as yes or no, whether data is available or not. So say if I'm interested in genomic data, so I'm checking this yes box. So it went down from 66 to 53 cohorts. And lastly, let's expand these 2 other categories, which is countries. You can see that there are 43 countries that satisfy this criteria of 50 having genomic data. And also that's the list of cohort names as well. But you see that this is a very long list. I don't want to actually expand it and then look through the list. So this, you can actually have the ability to do a search. So all I'm typing here, I wanted to type South, but I don't even need to type the whole thing because it matches partially to show me South Korea, South Africa, and South America. Say I'm interested in data from South Korea. And so you see that there are 3 cohorts. And say I'm interested in this project, COGES. And so click out. It takes me to their external website. And this is very useful information in here, but it's actually a little hard to get through because every website is different. So what I would propose though for our next iteration is instead of making these external links, I would propose let's see, this is having a cohort page within the browser. So this is a mock-up that we've done. Is designed such that each cohort will have a uniform format to describe essential information to users. So you start with the overview of the cohort, the participant countries, the PI lead. There's still a link to the external website if users want to do so. But the study design is centralized in this place, so you can easily look at the enrollment, number of participants, the duration of the enrollment period, etc. And it also talks about data availability. And then the markup paper is also described here if it's available. And more importantly, we can actually put the data dictionary that Melanie showed you earlier this is a dictionary specific to this cohort before harmonization happens. So you can actually see what specific attributes are there, even if some of them are actually not harmonized yet. And then scrolling down, we can now also have more details about the populations in the study. So this actually has several studies over a period of time, and so each of them can be described here. So this would be a much easier place for users to find information about the cohorts instead of going to individual website.